see when that happens.
Welcome to Never Again is Now, a podcast about anti-Semitism. Today we will discuss how a Holocaust survivor and his life partner used the social media platform TikTok to educate about the Holocaust and to combat anti-Semitism. I'm Evelyn Marcus, and in addition to being a psychologist, I'm featured in the documentary about anti-Semitism, Never Again is Now. I am a Dutch Jew and a daughter of Holocaust survivors. In 2006, I immigrated to the United States because of the rising anti-Semitism in Europe.
I am Phyllis Simbler-Miller, the founder of the nonfiction Holocaust theater project, ThinEdgeOfTheWedge.com. I grew up in the town of Elgin, Illinois, a small Jewish community, not with Holocaust survivors, but where our parents and grandparents had come at the turn of the 20th century to escape the Tsar and other pogroms. And yet, in September 1970, only 25 years after the end of World War II and the Holocaust, my U.S. Army officer husband and I found ourselves stationed in Munich, Germany, and this changed our lives as Jews forever.
Gidon Lev is a Holocaust survivor who came to Israel 65 years ago and became a farmer and a dairyman. When he retired, he began speaking about his wartime experiences during the Holocaust. Then his life partner, Julie Gray, wrote the memoir, The True Adventures of Gidon Lev, Rascal Holocaust Survivor Optimist. Gidon and Julie, welcome to our show. We're really thrilled to have you on. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So, Julie, could you share with us when and how you met Gidon?
I met Gidon in 2017, I think. Is that right? We were both living in the same part of Israel in Ramat Gan near Tel Aviv. And I'm a writer and an editor. And Gidon called me and said that he'd written about his life and he needed an editor and that he was a Holocaust survivor. And out loud to him, I said, sure, let's meet for coffee. But to myself, I said, I don't know enough about the Holocaust. I can't do this. But I owe a Holocaust survivor a cup of coffee. I'll definitely meet with him and that will be nice. But I didn't think I could do it. So a couple days later, we met. And I had never met a Holocaust survivor in my life, even though I live in Israel.
That's pretty amazing.
The image I had of them would be somebody very stooped and depressed and very elderly. And Gidon came swooping into the cafe with his notebook, and he was all organized and with his beautiful blue eyes and his hilarious laugh and smile. And the minute I met him, I just said, "Wow, this is a very unusual person." And that was a few years ago.
That's a great story about how you met.
So why did you decide to use TikTok? Tell us, Julie, if you can, that kind of creation story of what led your partnership to go to TikTok and then what happened. Give us the story.
I want to stay in that. Well, the book came out I wish you would sit down. I think Gidon's trying to grab the book. Sorry.
That's okay.
I started writing the book. We worked on the book together in 2019, and the book came out in 2020, and then there was the pandemic. So we couldn't, really publicize the book or do too much about it because there was a pandemic. And then I heard about this TikTok thing, and my background is working in Hollywood, so I'm aware of entertainment technology trends. So I heard about it, and I thought I knew it was this rapidly growing social media platform. It was exploding during the pandemic. So I thought, well, some writers go on TikTok and say, "Hey, I've written this book. Well, maybe we'll make a couple TikToks." So we just did it sort of on a lark. Knowing, though, I knew that the platform was going to be something significant on the cultural landscape. And we made a couple of TikToks introducing Gidon and showing, that we'd written a book. And almost immediately, we started seeing a lot of anti-Semitism. And then our mission totally shifted, because I never in my wildest dreams would have imagined as much anti-Semitism as I have seen on TikTok. I would never have imagined. And so we, seeing that, we decided that we needed to shift and address that. And that's really what I think defines our account today.
So your book is about the Holocaust, and the reactions
The book
were
is not about
anti-Semitic.
the Holocaust. The book is about Gidon's life. Here he took the trouble to get it out. You're aware of the title. The book,
You can see, right?
yeah,
Yes.
they can see it. Thank you, Gidon. The book is about Gidon's whole life. That's the thing about that I felt very strongly about, was that Gidon is and here he is. I'll let him speak for himself, but he's not just a Holocaust survivor. He's a father, a grandfather, a farmer, a kibbutznik, an Israeli. That's one part of his life, and it's a part that's really important to talk about. But it doesn't reflect the whole of Gidon. So the book is not about the Holocaust. It's about Gidon's life, and that's a piece of it, and we do talk about it. It is central to the book, obviously, but the book is also sort of a primer about Israeli history, because Gidon has lived in really important parts of Israeli history, from the Holocaust and his liberation to 1948 to when he came here later. He's been here in this country in most of its modern history. So I notice on social media, I see very many people with strong opinions about Israel, which I understand, but not a lot of information about it, about what is Zionism and why is it and where is it and what did it mean and how did it function. So the book is really written for people who don't know a lot about Israel. And I use a lot of context in the book to locate people in history. So I have several chapters that say it's this year, these are the things that happened, to help locate people and provide a lot of context. So Gidon's writing is fully 50% of the book. It's his writing. And then my part helps readers to, see that context.
Put it in context.
Right.
She's wonderful, by the way.
Oh.
Right. So what was it? Was it the part about living in Israel and being part of Israeli history, modern Israeli history, that triggered the anti-Semitism, you think?
On TikTok?
Yeah.
Not at all. No. The TikTok, we never said we live on TikTok, and we rarely do. He's a Holocaust survivor. There's anti-Semitism. So
Right. So
that's why it comes to us. It's because he's a Jew.
Okay. So it's not about Israel. It's about,
Okay.
and Gidon, can you give us
Yes, sometimes it is. We walk a very fine line. So if we say something overtly about Israel, we get a ton of anti-Zionist, anti-Israel comments and anti-Semitic, the whole cornucopia. So what we do in order to be more effective on TikTok with our message about anti-Semitism is sort of leave that information off the table, because we're not here to talk about Israel on our TikTok. That's not our lane. Some people do it. It's just not our lane. So once in a while it comes up, but that we're targeted just because we're Jewish.
I see. Gidon, can you give us some examples of what you created for TikTok about Holocaust education?
I think we created, first of all, we try to make it very personal and human. For example, one of the early TikToks that we did, one that I personally feel is one of the best, was where we did a face-to-face TikTok where I speak to myself as a young boy to an older man, and an older man to a young boy.
Let me interject that was a meme on TikTok. A meme is a trend, as you know. The meme on TikTok was young you speaking to older you. And most TikTokers were doing, me at 30 talking to me at 16, will I, whatever, will I ever be confident? Should I go to college, etc. So we took that meme, and the really the secret to our success on TikTok is we took that meme and we said, okay, how about if Gidon at age 6, when he's transported, to a concentration camp, can talk to Gidon now and say, will I be okay? Will I survive? And that TikTok has, I don't know how many, over 1 million views. That went crazy. Wow. So, and for Gidon, continue on about that. It was powerful for you to
Yes, in fact, it's powerful for me even today. It really is, because it touches something deep. I mean, imagine asking a 6-year-old boy, so what will you survive? What will you do when you grow up? And and the exchange, it is meaningful and it's powerful. And of course, I think people basically, not only on TikTok, but also on presentations that I make in front of groups, high school students. Yesterday we were in the Holocaust in Yad Vashem, yeah. And we met a dozen educators. And the standard education is, this happened there, and so many people were here, and so many people were sent, and so many. But there's nothing personal. It's too horrific, too big to be able to connect. But I try to connect to the people through my presentation, through my experiences of those which I remember. And remember, this took place when I was 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. Many things we don't remember. I sometimes don't remember what I ate the day before. And now I have to try to remember. So people ask, so what was your day like in the concentration camp? And I said, there wasn't a day that was every day was the same. Every day was something different. Every day was another day of struggle, another day of trying to survive, to put away fear, to find a little bit of bread or have a potato or something to stay alive.
So what's really powerful is that because Gidon is so charismatic, and the camera loves him, let's face it. And I know how to use TikTok. So between us, it's a powerful combination. So when people see Gidon saying, this is a picture of my great-grandmother. She was 83 years old when she was sent to Treblinka. That is more powerful than any textbook or because they're making this direct connection. And a lot of people say to us on TikTok, I got to hear a Holocaust survivor speak once and it changed my life. I'll never forget it. But the fact is that most young kids are not going to have that chance because we don't have as many survivors with us anymore. And because it's simply not accessible to them, or they're not going to have the opportunity to visit Auschwitz or Dachau or something like that. But on TikTok, they've got Gidon. So it was really a perfect marriage.
How long are these TikToks? Are they 1 minute, 2 minutes?
They vary between like 15 seconds to maybe 60 seconds. That's the nature of TikTok, and we're doing it. It's amazing. I took to TikTok like the duck to water, and as Gidon said yesterday, we were invited to Yad Vashem to speak to their Echoes and Reflections curriculum team, and we showed them several of our TikToks. And it's like, how on earth can you educate about the Holocaust in 30 seconds? Well, that's where my Hollywood background comes in, because with images and music and text, and you have to really shrink it down and say, okay, what's the most powerful message I have right here? Quickly. I'm not going to teach you everything about Treblinka. I can only teach you one thing about it that you will remember, that hopefully will make you say, I want to know more about that.
Okay, and let us just clarify. Since Treblinka was an extermination camp that very, very few people survived, that is not where Gidon was. Gidon was in Terezin, which is the German name is Theresienstadt, and he was liberated from there, correct?
Correct.
So
His
yes,
great grandmother was in Treblinka.
yeah,
That's
no,
right.
I know. I'm just clarifying for people who do know what Treblinka is.
Oh, yeah. No, you're quite right. Treblinka was a netto death camp.
Yes, exactly.
The
It was
work camp, it wasn't anything
Right.
else but death camp.
right.
And my 83-year-old grandmother, great-grandmother, ended up there from Theresienstadt. And if you can imagine an 83-year-old lady, sort of very serene, fine, being first in Theresienstadt, crowded, sick people, the nature of the Theresian concentration camp was such that the elderly people suffered there more than anybody else. They didn't work, they got less food, and they got sick.
I was
And
just there, and I learned some horrific things about how the elderly Jews were treated. Horrific. And yes, they
Yes.
got less food rations because they didn't. Yes, so we're not talking about any pleasant place for elderly people, but still, it wasn't an extermination camp.
it wasn't an extent. By the way, I think something like 33,000 people died in Theresienstadt,
Yes, of
without
starvation.
counting those that were sent to the east.
Yeah,
Right.
without the thing about Theresienstadt that I say in the book, The True Adventures, is that it was like this horrifying waiting room. That's where you
Yes.
sat, and it was a transport camp. That was the purpose of it, that and propaganda. So as I detailed in the book, these transport lists were drawn up by the Jewish committee, and they had to choose who would be on the transport list. So there was all this jockeying and trying to get off the list, and if you got off, somebody else got on. Theresienstadt was its own special hell.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes. I'm
You-
reading
you-
a book now
Guido.
called The Last Ghetto that's very detailed about how it
Oh,
was
that's a great
special
book.
house.
Yeah, we know that book. Yeah.
Gidon, you just spoke about your 80 plus self asking your 6-year-old self in the camp, will you survive? And what are you going to do when you're a grown up? Could you tell us what the 6-year-old answered?
I don't remember.
What the older self answered?
The older
No,
self answered.
what
Yes,
the younger self
you will.
answered?
The older
The
man
6-year-old asks, the older one
Oh,
answers.
okay.
the
Will I
older
survive?
and you will survive. Hold on, stay strong, believe in the future. You will survive.
And you said, and you're going to be a father and a grandfather, and you're going to have a good life. Like, it was so beautiful.
I'm about
And, you know,
to
here,
cry.
my motivation was, this is a meme. This is great use of this meme. But for Gidon, I think it was incredibly therapeutic, because
Yeah.
it was kind of healing to comfort
was,
that
it
little
was.
boy, to give that little boy some comfort.
To begin with, I didn't understand exactly what you were getting at.
Yeah.
But once I understood it, it touched me.
Yeah.
It still
That
does.
little boy needed to hear that. And,
Yeah.
How
Yes.
often, Julie, do you make these TikToks?
oh, daily. Absolutely daily.
And so you film. Tell us quickly how you do it. You know,
Well, TikToks can be something you create from scratch, where you say, like yesterday we were at Yad Vashem and I filmed a bunch of that, but I haven't made a TikTok out of it yet because I don't have something cool to say about that quite yet. So I'm always filming, and then you assemble it and say, here's the point. So TikTok is something that you can film and create. But a lot of TikToks are also just what are called stitches and duets of other people's TikToks. So somebody else will put a TikTok on that you like or don't like. And there's these two functions in TikTok called stitching and duetting, where you can take a piece of their TikTok and then you say, I think this is crazy, or I really support this, or whatever. So TikTok is very, there's a lot of dialogue that happens in TikTok. It's not just only your content, it's what you think about other content. And that really drives TikTok.
so do you stitch from other people, or do other people stitch from you in this particular?
A lot of people do from us because they like our message. The most recent example is we just did a TikTok, I think last week, where Gidon is framed, it's all black behind him, and he says, mark my words, these days of book banning, anti-Semitism, transphobia, etc., will be in the history books. What will you tell your children you did? And
What
then
will you do? Well, no, what will you say to your children that you did while this was happening?
and then he
And
just
that's the important part here.
yeah, but the real catch was he says that, and then on top of this, and then he just looks at the camera very solemnly, and then I put this text on top of excuses modeled after the things that Eichmann said. I didn't know. I was busy. It didn't affect me. So these excuses go on top of that. And then the piece of music I chose to use with that was Under Pressure, the David Bowie Queen song. We're living in a historic time. This is in other words, that's the subtext, right? We're living in a historic time. What are you going to say later? I resisted, I fought, or I didn't. This is the question. And here's the face of a person who lived through the consequences of that. And that people are duetting that video right and left on TikTok. It's going crazy.
Does duetting, wait, let's duetting means sharing.
No, duetting is when duetting and Stitching are both sharing. Duetting is when half, very well, when half the screen shows the video that you think is great or bad, and the other half shows you saying, I think this is great or bad. Stitching is when you take a piece of the video for a few seconds and you just play it, and then you respond to that later.
So in duetting,
so people both stitch and duet our videos a lot.
And when they duet, do they say like how important this message is?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you give us some examples of what in today's world you think is so important? What you call it historic times, and where people have to make decisions on how they act in that situation.
Are you asking me, or should I?
No, you go.
I go.
You go.
Yeah, you do.
So there is so much hate, so much violence. Hate not only against Jews and anti-Semitism, but against the other, whether it be Muslims or the LGBTQ, or the blacks or the Chinese or whatever. Why can't we learn to accept the other? They all have a right to exist and to live.
Well, we saw something on the news today, right, about that teacher in Florida who's being investigated by the Florida school for showing a Disney movie to the kids that had one gay character in it, and that character has 2 minutes of screen time. That is so alarming. We are living in historic times when there's this incredible extremism all over the world. But I'm American, and in the United States, we see legislation against, abortion and choice. We're seeing legislation against the trans community, the gay community. We're seeing book burnings, Moms for Liberty, demanding the school boards ban this book and ban that book. These are historic times. People will look back and say, how did we get through this time?
How did we get to this?
Yes.
And I lived through what we got through when this happened in Germany and Austria and the rest of Europe that was under German occupation. Here I can just show you one little aspect I have. It's an original. It's the Star of David that in 1941 in Czechoslovakia, every Jew had to wear, and you had to buy them. This was my mother's. And I always tell this a little bit because of the story. You see at the back, there is a safety pin.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see? Yes. Why is a safety pin? Because when you go out of your house, once you wear a sweater, once you wear a jacket, once a shirt. So you have to buy 10, 15 of these. Each one you have to buy. You weren't given. It was a lot of money. So my mother was a bit of a rebel. She said, I'm buying one, and pinned it to her chest on one sweater. The next morning on a shirt, and so forth and so on. Of course, she took a little bit of a chance, because had they caught her, they probably would have never seen her again. but
Right.
that's part of the existence.
But here's
So-
something I had never seen one of these in real life, or much less touched one, until I met Gideon. And to me, this thing is like radioactive. It disgusts me. It's shocking to me. When you show this to somebody on TikTok who's 18 years old, that's the impact of Gideon. Because 62% of the people who follow us on TikTok are under the age of 34. And 82% of our followers are American. And we've talked about the anti-Semitism we get on our TikTok, but actually, in the big picture, most of what we get is huge love and support from very young people saying, I know this is a dumb question. I'm 16, I live in Texas. What happened at Auschwitz? And we will say, okay, here, and we take these comments at face value, and we make a space on TikTok for young people to ask questions, and we answer them very sincerely. It's a teachable moment. So our account has such goodwill in it, and Gideon has provided like this grandfatherly like figure that people can relate. They can ask him questions, and they don't have to feel foolish if they don't know the answer. That's okay. We make that very clear. It's okay. So we have taken Holocaust education in our little corner of the world, our little corner of the internet, I should say, and reach through the screen to young people, and they see Gideon's face. People say all the time, I see your face and I smile. Instantly they see his face and they're happy.
I don't know why.
That's huge, though. That's huge. We've gotten, I cannot tell you how many emails recently from young trans people saying, Gideon, I'm so scared. I'm so scared. What should I do? We have too many. We can't answer them. So people see Gideon as a figure of wisdom and comfort. And that's just, I'm very proud of it.
And survival.
And how do people find you on TikTok to follow you?
Oh, it's at The True Adventures, the True Adventures.
Plural.
Or you can just search for Gideon and
Okay.
So, Julie, can you take us through your creative process when you see an anti-Semitic TikTok that you want to address?
I don't always, my strategy is I don't respond to anti-Semitic comments necessarily. I decide what the content is. I'm not led by the anti-Semites. I don't always want to be in the office, in the defensive mode of, batting those away. I only make a TikTok in response to those if it's a particularly dumb thing to say, then I do. But I actually don't let that guide me. Our strategy is divided between just general Holocaust education. We did a TikTok the other day that said, why is Holocaust education important? And then the next screen says, because genocide prevention is a thing. Using the vernacular of young people, it's a thing. It's not important so you can memorize stuff. It's important because we can prevent it in the future, right?
We have to prevent it.
So I divide the strategy between kind of general messages about the importance of history and Holocaust education. Then I do sometimes videos that are specifically about Gideon's experience. We did a video where Gideon simply read all the restrictions against Czech Jews in Prague. Just read them. There was like 40 restrictions. And he's just reading them. But people know that he went through those and his family went through those. And then I also always make sure, because TikTok can be a very playful place, a very creative place, that we do TikToks.
And can also be foolish.
Yeah, we do TikToks where Gideon does the Rod Stewart dance challenge. We did that. We do showing what Gideon is cooking. We do all kinds of Gideon meeting the mayor of our town, trying to get off his parking tickets. That didn't work. But we try to show people, like, my philosophy is like a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. If our channel on TikTok is only relentlessly, the Holocaust was horrible and you need to know that, nobody would follow us. So we make sure that we vary our message.
Yes, very much so. And I'll give you just one example to your question is, how do we act sometimes? Sometimes, very often, it's so bad it doesn't pay to answer because it just helps them spread. But from time to time, you can't hold yourself back. So, for example, one person not a while ago said, "You are a liar. You lie." And my answer to him was, I wish it was a lie. Had it been a lie, I would have had a father, grandfathers, grandmothers, aunts, uncles, cousins, first cousins, second. I had none of them. And I didn't have a childhood at all.
That TikTok has like, I don't know, like 2 million views. That
Wow.
was so, but Gideon saw that comment and he was like, no. I can't let this one go. So, but I strategize how to deal with the trolls. There's a strategy. I know a lot about trolls. I did worked on a project with a research project with Hebrew University studying online anti-Semitism. It's something I'm very active in. So I help create a strategy for dealing with trolls, whether how you identify, is it a person or is it a bot?
Ooh.
There's a way you can figure it out. Is it what's the motivation of the person? Is it just to throw? But like trolls remind me of teenagers who would put a flaming bag of poop on your doorstep. They do it for you to react, but in the real world, it doesn't really. It's not worth your energy. So you really have to weigh how you react. And as I said, for us on TikTok, I don't want to be in reactive mode. I'm in the driver's seat, not the trolls.
I think I really love that comment that you're in the driver's seat. And I think that's very important for all of us in terms of when we speak up against anti-Semitism, to be in the driver's seat. And
that's right. There's combating anti-Semitism and then there's countering it. And I'm really in the countering it, and both are valuable, but they're different. Countering it means Jewish content that is positive, creative, interesting, and educational. Combating it is also important, but that's not really my lane.
Exactly the same thing.
No, it's not the same thing.
No.
As we come to the end of our fascinating talk with you, Evelyn may have another question, and then I'm going to give you a chance for last thoughts. So Evelyn, is there something that you wanted to ask?
Yes, Gideon, what would you like our listeners to take away from the podcast episode, this podcast we're doing now, in terms of what they can do to counter anti-Semitism?
To be aware, to be connected, to be vigilant, to fight back, not to close your ears, eyes, and the head. That's what Chamberlain did in 1938 in Munich. Otherwise, Hitler wouldn't have gotten for nothing the part of Czechoslovakia. That's what we have to do. Encourage people to be connected.
To be active.
To be active.
Yeah.
In many ways, politically and otherwise. Politics are part of our life, whether we like it or we don't like it. It's there.
I saw this quote recently that said, before there was the Holocaust, there was politics. So yeah. we're about to do a campaign for a couple of TikToks for this organization about spreading good news to get voters, young voters, to register to vote. Before the Holocaust was the Holocaust, it was politics. Pay attention to this legislation now.
Interesting. Okay. Any last words? This is really, our listeners will be very excited to hear what you've said. This is so moving. How old are you? Can you share with us how old you are?
Absolutely. I'm 88 years old and 2 months. 3 months.
I knew that. I thought you were coming up on your 88th birthday. So.
Yeah, I definitely am. I was born in 1935 in the Czech Republic, in the spa called Karlovy Vary, Carlsbad. Beautiful place to visit, by the way. Especially if you have rheumatism or anything else. A wonderful bath there.
Yes. Or if you just like a fancy hotel. We are making it, so there's a documentary in production about Gideon right now called I Am Gideon Lev. We've been filming for almost 2 years, and we were just there a few months ago filming at Theresienstadt and in Karlovy Vary and in Prague. So it'll be an exciting film.
We hope so. And we want to sell as many books as possible at the same time.
Okay, that's a fair conclusion. So I thank you both so much for coming on our show. I thank Evelyn and I thank our listeners for listening and hopefully acting on your advice. You can see Evelyn's documentary, Never Again Is Now, on Amazon and YouTube. I highly encourage you to see it. It's very informative. You can read more about my nonfiction Holocaust project at thinedgeofthewedge.com. And as we end every episode, we say, without putting yourself in physical danger, please speak up against anti-Semitism and all hate.